Today's episode of Behind the Wheel sees us behind the wheel of a Lynk and Co. Now, the brand may be a bit alien to some, but if you are a subscriber to our channel, you would have seen that we've done a walk around, a brief one albeit, of the cars that they have available inside the country. Now, what we're driving today, is the '05 all-wheel drive. It is their sort of flagship in the Philippines. Now, on today's episode, we're going to show you why this marriage of Swedish and Chinese is not as unconventional as you might think. Now, there have been a lot of pairings known around the world that might sound a little bit off, but they work. For instance, most recently you've got Deadpool and Wolverine. An all-time favorite would be an ice cream sundae and French fries. Or how about Jamaica and a bobsledding team? Now, no matter how odd it may sound, for some strange reason, it just works.
What does this have to do with us being in IKEA?
Much like a sharpened pencil, Jack, I do have a very good point. Follow me. Sweden and China couldn't be more further apart geographically and culturally. But it's a marriage that seems to work. Case in point, IKEA, or IKEA, depends how you say it. It is Swedish designed, Swedish branded, but if you take a look at it closer, it is made in China. See, it's a marriage that just absolutely works.
So where exactly are you going with this?
The same can be said about Lynk and Co. The brand is a collaboration between Volvo and Geely. Their headquarters are based out of Sweden, and manufacturing is, well, you guessed it, out of China. Shomai for you. All of their cars also use the CMA platform that can also be found in the Volvo CX-40 and C40. One thing they don't share though is price. If you check the AutoDeal app available on iOS and Android, it will tell you that the Lynk & Co. '05 comes in at 2,748,000 Philippine pesos, which if you think about it, is not bad because it is 1,000,000 Philippine pesos less than its counterpart, the Volvo XC40. But despite that, people will still say, and I agree with them, that it's a bit steep when it comes to its price. Understanding that, well, you've got other cars in the market such as the CX-5 all-wheel drive turbo and the RAV4 that come in less than that. So when you're talking about the price, yeah, it is a bit of an ouch. Now, with that big price, thankfully it comes with an engine that has pretty big numbers as well. You're looking at, underneath all this cover, a 2-liter turbo that produces 251 horses and 350 Newton meters of torque, mated to an 8-speed automatic from Aisin, by the way. Thankfully, this is not mated to a DCT because we've had problems with other cars, no matter how good they are, with their DCTs, and it drives very, very differently. But more on that when we do go out for a drive. As for fuel consumption, the car does about 8 kilometers per liter inside the city. Much better on the highway. We've pushed it to about 17.2 kilometers per liter. Now, when it comes to the exterior of the car, it looks quite different from those that we can find from the Japanese market. It looks closer to what it is that the Europeans are offering, which is actually a nice take on it. Yet it still has its own design language. There are other things that it has borrowed from other manufacturers and cars that you see on the road, such as, let's say, for example, the lights. There are a lot of cars now that are doing this popular thing where it's split kind of a thing. You've got your DRLs and indicators up on top, and yet your headlamps are still on the front clip. The grille is nice and skinny. No fog lamps here, but there are channels here on either side that help push the air away to try and make it as aerodynamic as possible. Moving on down the side, these are quite impressive because these are not 18s, 19s, no, these are 20s wrapped in 45 series tires that are 235 wide. It is gorgeous. Also, these are wrapped in Goodyear F1 tires, which are, I guess, somewhat of a cheap code. I don't mean to break this, but F1. We're having a pretty good season so far, except the fact that George was robbed.
Well, Carlos is also going to Williams.
I'm not sure about Carlos going to Williams either. I'm a little bit upset at that, but it's a great season. We've got so many. Let's continue with the car. Jack, stop throwing me off. You've got indicators on the side mirror, cameras underneath, which is a part of a 360, which we'll show you a little bit later. You're looking at 213 millimeters of ground clearance, which looks like it's more because the car is raised. You'd expect a little bit more, but if you think about it, that's just at par with cars like the Toyota RAV4. It's not bad, really. And then it's got this sloping roofline, which I do really like. However, it will obviously diminish the space that you have inside the automobile, or will it? No, I just gave it away. It does diminish the space a little bit, but the form looks really good. However much that Jack and I, and even Earl, are more function over form, this form, however, is actually pretty darn good. Now, as for its rear quarter, this is really where the 05 stands out. There's not a lot of coupe crossovers in our market, so this is something that makes it very, very unique. Although you will probably compare it to cars that you do see on the road every once in a while, like let's say, for example, an X4 or an X6. Apart from the sloping roof line, which is very unique, unique too are the tail lamps. Very, very eye-catching. I like that. The third brake light is found up here. And finally, down below, two exhausts, two real exhausts, because there's no fakery down here. And on behalf of Jack, he'd like to say, tack.
Why would I want to say that?
Because it means thank you in Swedish.
It's that's just tack.
Like just Jack, just tack.
Okay.
You
sure.
should remember this. We just came from IKEA, man. What's wrong with you?
Sorry. Okay.
Get some culture in you, man. To be completely honest with you guys also, it took us a while to figure out how to open the rear door. We were looking for buttons here, buttons there, and whatnot, till we realized it was actually the area right here inside the O of the Lynk & Co. Just give it a gentle tap and voila, like magic. It'll reveal 336 liters of space, which unfortunately isn't a lot when you're talking about crossovers of this size because, well, if you compare it to the CX-5, that's like 500 liters of space. But then again, it doesn't have a sloping roofline. Bonus, plus, minus kind of a thing. So here in the back, obviously enough space for your overnight carry on, and it will definitely fit a balikbayan box if you remove the tonneau. And it will increase exponentially when you fold the rear seats, which is nice because it's flat and you can fit in another two balikbayan boxes there. Sadly though, regardless of how you push the balikbayan box in as back as possible, this space right here is only going to be meant for smaller items, again because of the sloping roofline. But it looks good. It does look really good. Now, I know I've said a lot of times sloping roofline, but check this out. Even with a sloping roofline, my headroom is actually pretty darn good. Legroom isn't too shabby either. That's my normal driving position. And look, I can even cross my legs. Not bad. Now, I will say that most definitely better for two passengers rather than three, because if there was a third passenger, that's a bit tight. And then I'd have to contend with elbow room, so not so nice. But even larger passengers like Jack would definitely be able to fit back here, even with just a little bit of headroom left. The leather is nice and supple with a lot of textures. You've got perforated here where you sit, and then you've got smooths around the edges, and then you've got some nice yellow stitching as well. Nice, good contrast. And then you have some white leather here up here, which is, I don't think such a bad idea because it's the last thing that will get dirty because it's really just your shoulders and your head that's going to hit it. So that's actually quite nice. There is some, what do you call this, lumbar support that's found here at the rear, which will basically kind of make you sit upright, which is fine because the car does feel a little bit sporty. So do these bolsters that you find for your thighs and your shoulders as well. It helps keep you inside the car, makes you feel cocooned, and not in a bad way. No, you don't feel claustrophobic in here at all, thanks to the fact that there's a lot of air that comes in to two air vents. It's got two USB charging points, a Type A and Type C, and also a sunroof. Now, if Earl were a bit faster, he would have opened it by now. Hi, nako, Earl. So slow.
How could you
So
miss your
slow.
cue? That's
Earl,
literally the
you had
one thing.
one job. As for storage, you've got pockets here behind the front seats like an airplane. It's kind of stiff, but it works enough for an iPad. Obviously, you have your pockets on the door, which are bottle holders. And then, yes, you do have a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Up front is really where the O5 will catch you. It will catch you in the best way possible because nothing about this car when you get in screams like it's not upmarket, or better yet, it's not European in design, in look, in feel, in build quality. It is really amazing inside this automobile. And before I start off, there is barely a hint of piano black already inside this car. You will see some form of piping here on the steering wheel and around the instrument cluster, or rather the infotainment screen. But here, nothing at all. And that's just the beginning. You've got a full color display as your instrument cluster, which is quite large. Even larger still is your infotainment system, which is 12.8 inches. Huge. Obviously, it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is wireless, by the way. You also have wireless charging. You have a suite of advanced driver assist systems inside this car. Steering wheel feels good to the touch. Buttons here. They could have used physical buttons itself instead of a plate here, but I can forgive it. Flat bottom, electronic shifter here, some cubby holes here in the center. Really, the feel, the build quality, you feel like you're very cocooned. And the fact that the seats are very well bolstered, it just feels good. You know, it comes to a point where this car, and we'll get to the driving a little bit later, but this car, if you were to cover up the Lynk and Co in the center, I wouldn't have thought that I was in a car less than that of a Volvo or a BM or even a Mazda. It's galing. Plus, the sound system in here is Infinity too. Ooh la la, it sounds good. It doesn't sound as good, however, as getting the AutoDeal app for absolutely free.
Wow,
Now that is a
that's
segue.
some next
Available
level
for
stuff right there,
iOS
man.
and Android. Get it now, which will connect you to all the dealers nationwide and get you to your car quick, fast, and in a hurry to help you find the best car at the best price. But now, I'll ask you to please subscribe to our channel. If you deem this video seems like it deserves a like, give it a like. Because right now we're about to go on the go. And I don't know what I'm saying anymore because I'm stalling. Because there are people in the back saying, Kako, please hurry up. We need to use this space. Yes, yes, I'm moving, I'm moving. Just as Jack and I set off on the pavement, I completely forgot to mention how it's nice that there are physical controls for the air and the audio inside the car. You can easily get to them right away.
I can't believe we have to mention it like it's an important feature.
Because
like,
it is an important
it is
feature.
important, but it's kind of rare. It's kind of sad that we have to mention that there's physical
What
controls.
isn't sad is how quiet this car absolutely is. It mitigates road noise, wind noise, bumps on the road, and to point out that this car is actually on 20-inch 45 series tires, as we pointed out earlier. But it is just so quiet in here. Now it does have an Infinity sound system, which sounds absolutely great, and I wish you guys could hear it, but we don't have that kind of budget. But on the way out of the city, I enjoyed the fact that I just killed everything and I was sitting in silence, and the car really does that absolutely well. So peaceful.
He's a psychopath like that. Sometimes for a 2-hour drive, he'll just keep it in silence.
You really had to tell people about that? I thought that was between you and me, man. Now the power gets down well, and the fact that this has an all-wheel drive system is just absolutely great. When you want to overtake, the turbo kicks in even at low speeds, and you just keep pushing and pushing, or in this case, pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing at the same time. So now we're at 86 kilometers per hour. I'm going to overtake on the wrong side, sorry, but I'm just going to speed up immediately, and boom, power just kicks in, and like that, we're at 100 kilometers per hour already. Wow. Happy as a clam as we are, because as we mentioned earlier, this is an 8-speed automatic transmission, not a DCT or a CVT. It's a proper 8-speed from Aishin. There is a bit of a drawback though in the whole transmission point. Number one, the electronic shifter it's odd. When you're in park and you want to go into drive, you have to click it down twice. And then when you want to go to reverse, it passes through neutral first and then it hits reverse. So there's that extra step. Not a big deal really. A bigger deal would be it lacks a little bit of a bite. Hear me out. So let's say you're coming out of a parking lot that's kind of inclined and you pause just as you get on top, but the rear tires are still somewhat on the downslope. When you release the brake and try to step on the accelerator, it does roll back ever so slightly to a point that if you're not used to the automobile, you tend to jump back on the brakes immediately. It's not concerning to an extent, but it is something that you don't really expect, especially as a first-time driver. The advanced driver assist systems that you have inside the car are not as pesky as you would find in other automobiles. It's quite tame, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It works quite well. Also, all the functions that you have for the advanced driver assist systems, you can turn it on and off to whichever it is that you want, configure it in the manner that you want it to. And also the adaptive cruise, something that Jack has fallen in love with, but me not really. But I have to admit that when I do use it, it's not a surge. It is a proper, elegant, and refined getting back to speed kind of a thing. The overall driving experience is quite good, really. I have to admit that. You've got the quiet side of it, the peaceful side of it, but yet when it wants to be robust, it can, thanks to the 2-liter turbo and the 8-speed automatic transmission. So it's got refinement to it that really you don't expect. Here's the thing though. I know that a lot of people are going to have their arms up in the air considering the price of this automobile, but not at any point while I'm testing this vehicle would I think that anyone that purchased this car would feel shortchanged at all. It's got a well-appointed interior, standout looks, and its on-road performance is superb. The 05 catches you off guard in the best of ways because you don't expect something like this to come out from a company that's so young. It really is quite refined. It does have a few drawbacks, as we pointed out, the cargo space, the transmission rolls just ever so slightly, and then of course there's that price. But if you can stretch your budget ever so slightly, it feels like you are getting that much more for your money. Amazing, really. But don't take our word for it. Get the AutoDeal app, book your test drive right now, and experience it yourself. Because trust me, you will not regret it. You won't. You really won't.